Hello, I'm Michael Tressler. I'm a senior customer engineer at Microsoft, and I'm based out of St. Petersburg, Florida. Today, I'm going to talk about Microsoft Teams Hybrid and how that applies to Teams devices. Specifically, we're going to talk about Teams Display, and my friend Jimmy Vaughn is going to join at the end to talk about Teams Panels. But let me get started on Teams Rooms, both for Android and Windows, and how you can leverage the new innovations within Teams Rooms to help the transition of employees back from their homes into the office. So what happened a long time ago was a lot of effort was put into optimizing, maximizing, and monifying, putting a lot of money into conference rooms. These were really state-of-the-art rooms, really expensive, really cool, really hard to use, but for the time, they were effective. If you were a remote attendee joining those meetings, you were an afterthought. The people in the room, there'd be like 10 people in the room drawing on whiteboards, doing all kinds of things, and then there'd be like 2 or 3 or 4 remote people trying to see what they could. Video was a little grainy. I've been in meetings where somebody turned their laptop around and pointed it to a whiteboard, and you got the glare, and there are all these side conversations, so the microphones at the time weren't particularly good at filtering out quiet conversations and focusing on primary speakers. A camera in the room was just staring at the room. Nothing, it didn't focus on this active speaker or any of that. Now, a lot of this has changed, not just with Microsoft Teams rooms, but with the video conferencing world in general. A lot better speakers, better microphones, and that sort of thing. But we still haven't addressed, and I'm talking about the industry in general, really hasn't addressed the imbalance of value or priority on the people in the conference room versus the people sitting at home or in a coffee shop or wherever they happen to be. So how do we do that? How do we level the playing field so that remote attendees and in-room attendees have a very positive, mutually beneficial experience? Well, this pandemic has changed the playing field, quite honestly, to the remote users. So we were all remote, more or less, and we used Microsoft Teams or some other tools, but it's a Microsoft presentation, so I'll focus on Teams. And we got comfortable with what we saw, that we had an application directly, a mouse click away or a press on a tablet away from controlling the meeting or contributing to the meeting. You could send emotions like the in Teams you got the applause and the thumbs up and the heart. You can those are all new innovations that have been added. Every attendee has their own little square when their camera's turned on. You can see their reaction. You don't just have this view of a conference room where somebody at the back might be graining and their facial expression could change the way you perceive what they were saying. We have chat, we have desktop sharing, we have all of these wonderful tools, PowerPoint Live now, all on the desktop and mobile clients. So now we return to the conference room and nothing's changed, right? We still have one camera, maybe a display or two, some speakers and microphones, but I'm in the conference room now, right? So I've come back to the office, I'm in a meeting, and a remote person says something really good, and I want to give them the thumbs up or give them the heart emotion. How do I do that? The people on the remote side see the whole room. They don't see me. They see myself and the 2 or 3 or 5 other people in the room. They don't see my expression like they did before. So the balance of power has kind of changed to the remote attendee. So what can we at Microsoft do to level that playing field? Well, we've done a lot of software updates to Teams rooms. So you can on the console now send a lot of these, take advantage of a lot of these features that are on the desktop client, but that still requires somebody touch that central console. So we're expanding the mobile device companion mode experience with Teams rooms. So you walk into a conference room, you join the meeting from your mobile device, iOS or Android, and now a companion mode pops up, and that companion mode lets you do things like, from your own account, without having to say the whole room is sending a thumbs up, I am sending a thumbs up using my mobile device. And the remote attendees will see that little thumbs up pop up. Room remote. So we're in large rooms, maybe socially distanced. So it's a bit of an effort to get to that console to turn up the volume or to mute the microphone if somebody, if there's a private side conversation that needs to happen. Well, Room Remote is now part of the companion mode in the Teams mobile client. So now you can break out that same mobile phone and do some room management features like muting the microphones and increasing the volume and things like that. Intelligent speakers were released a few months ago. And what those do is they are able to identify the speaker in a conference room. So if you don't have an intelligent speaker and you're in a meeting and there's a conference room, if someone in the conference room says something, the transcript of the meeting will just say, conference room A said this, and then conference room A said that, and conference room A said the other. But that was 3 different people speaking. So by taking a voice print within the Teams client, each one of those attendees, they use their Teams desktop client, they read a paragraph. Teams is able to make a voice print. So now when we return to the conference room and I speak, it'll say Michael Tressler said. It's not going to say conference room A said. It'll say Michael Tressler. So now it's easier when you're going through the transcript to attribute who did what. So that's a super cool feature with Intelligent Speaker. Can we do more? Can we give everyone their own little square when they're in the conference room, their video square, their video tile, whatever we want to call it? Can we do that for people in a conference room the same we do for people who are connected via Mac OS or Windows or whatever? Yeah, we can do that. It's coming. It's right around the corner. With intelligent cameras, those cameras are able to take multiple simultaneous video feeds. Sometimes there's 2 cameras in the mix. Sometimes it's 1 camera with multiple lenses. There's different ways that the vendors are doing it. And what happens is now that we get multiple feeds, those cameras are able to focus in both on the whole conference room, so you can get that panorama conference room view, and you can also get the individual view of the active speaker, and then parentheses, speakers. So depending on the camera, depending on the technology, you could get 4, 6, however many active speakers. So now I'm in a conference room with intelligent camera and intelligent speaker. The transcript will say who said the actual things, and I get a little square. So now we have some sort of parity between people in the conference room with people in remote. Everybody's got the square. I can use my companion on my phone to send the the emotions, the hearts and the thumbs up and the applause and all that. So this is all new stuff to help level the playing field in a hybrid world for Teams devices, and this is specifically for Teams conference rooms. More is coming. If you didn't watch the Ignite announcements, take a look at that and see what all is being announced or was announced at Ignite. And there's a lot of exciting things coming up. There's a lot of work being done in Teams Display. Teams Display has been overlooked and I think misunderstood. I talked to a lot of people and they're like, I don't get the point of Teams Display. Why do I need a separate device that runs Teams? I'm like, I can throw that question back at you. Why do you need a separate device to make phone calls? Why, many people have a phone on their desk, and that's okay. And it can only make and receive phone calls. What if I gave you a device that could make and receive phone calls, and if you wanted it, you can do Teams? So I'm going to go through a demonstration of Teams Display. what it is to try to explain what's going on. There are a lot of things announced recently regarding Teams Display. There are new manufacturers coming out with these. So if you've been thinking Teams Display was kind of this niche device, it's time to reconsider. Now, how does Teams Display, this whole presentation is about hybrid, right? How does Teams Display fit into a hybrid world, and why am I going to focus on Teams Display as a device, a personal device you should strongly consider adopting? Many people who are returning to the office had to cobble together an office at home, a work from home office. The kitchen table, I've heard stories of people taking the guest closet, taking everything out and putting like a TV tray with their monitor just big enough for the keyboard, mouse, and then they can kind of be quiet, and then everything's kind of hidden away in their house. The biggest one, the biggest or worst or craziest example is the kitchen table. So now, as a family meets for dinner, you either have to push monitors to the side, or you're just eating around and spilling drinks on keyboards and things like that. Not that I don't spill drinks here at my desk, where I eat far too many lunches. But the deal here is now, as people are returning, and let's just go with some hypotheticals. People are returning to the office 2 days a week or 3 days a week. Does it still make sense to have a giant monitor, keyboard, mouse, maybe even a PC or whatever on the kitchen table, and the laptop on the side, right? Does it still make sense to have all of that if you're only now going to be working from home for a day or two, and you'll take your monitor and all that stuff back to the office? So how can we be very productive still using a smaller laptop screen, right? The laptop that we carry back and forth, we're not carrying monitors back and forth. Those are either returned to the office or taken, at least taken off the kitchen table, and setting them up every day is kind of a pain, or at least every couple days is kind of a pain. Well, that's where Teams Display can come in. So you've torn down your work from home office, and Wednesday or Tuesdays and Thursdays you work from home. Monday, Wednesday, Friday you go into the office. And so instead of going through the hassle of setting everything up, you just fire up your laptop, take your Teams Display, plop it down, and now you have a dual monitor situation. One monitor, the laptop, is focused on your work. That can be, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever, line of business applications, whatever you need to do. Your second monitor, which, pay attention to the announcements that have come out. If you thought like just the Think Smart View, which was the first and the first Teams Display device on the market, if you thought that screen was too small to do work, please review the new Teams Displays coming out. There are some definite size increases, so the usability of that as a larger second screen comes into play. So now you're using your laptop for your line of business or your actual work, and then you have your Teams Display to keep Teams. So now you don't have to Alt Tab, what is it, Windows Tab or whatever if you're fancy, Windows Shift Tab, whatever it is, or just click on the toolbar on the bottom to flip between Teams and everything else. Teams is up here on the side at all times. And let me show you Teams. We're going to go into a pretty heavy display here. Let me show you heavy demo here. Let me show you Teams Display. This is the default interface on a Teams Display. I just factory reset this thing. So this is what you see. I've signed in as Megan Bowen here. And we can see as the basics, like right here, this is a phone. You can see I can make phone calls right here. I can place calls. I have my speed dial, history, voicemail. So if you need a phone, right? Because maybe you don't want, I want my headphones to be playing music. I don't want my headphones to like cut off and then take a phone call. So I could use this thing in speaker mode. It does pair Bluetooth. Again, I'm focusing on the Think Smart View, but again, review the new Teams Display for other connectivity options for headphones and that sort of thing. But it's a phone, right? So I can make phone calls. So it's everything that a Teams phone is. It understands all of that. But no, when I go back, there is so much more, right? Sure, call, contacts, voicemail is all there, but there's no chat on Teams phone. Whereas now I can see, here's my chat. Pradeep has said me, you're killing it in editorial design. Thanks for your hard work, Megan. Let me just pop a reply in here and say, Oops. Let me learn to spell. Thank you. So now I can type that on the screen quickly and reply to Pradeep. And I am not using any part of my um, my laptop. Okay. By the way, if this is running a little slow, it's the way I have to do this in order to capture the image. Is there's going to be some delays. So don't think that these devices are slow. It's how I have to do this presentation to get these screens off here. But just like your Teams client, I can scroll through and down and see everything and just pop on different chats and conversations and see what's going on. If I wanted to call Alex Wilbur, I've got up here my phone, and so there we go. We're going to call Alex Wilbur. I'm going to hang up. But right there, I can do my Teams phone calls and Teams communications like that. I can look at files that I've done with Alex, and there probably aren't any in here. Oh, look, there is. There's a Contoso Next Gen Camera Product Planning Doc. So I wonder if a Teams display can open a Word document, and it should be able to as it's spinning here. Access denied. Sweet. This is a test tenant, by the way, so it's very possible I don't have access to that. But again, if I have access to those files, I should be able to get there. Calendar view, just like in the Teams client, I can see what meetings are coming up on my calendar, and I can join them. So there's a 4 p.m. weekly check-in with engineers, so I can jump in on there and see what's going on. So again, join the meeting, turn camera, and here we go. Right, I can join doing whatever I want to do, just like you would expect from a Teams client. Can pop over here to more. Let's see if there are files that are actually in my OneDrive on this test tenant. Apparently not. There are no recent files, so no files to open here from Megan. But again, if there are files there and they were using, and I had access to them, it'll use the Office on the web to open them, just like by default in the Teams client. So the most exciting, though, is then to go to Teams. Let's pop on Teams. And now these are all the teams and channels that I'm a member of. So I can scroll through here. I mean, shouldn't be anything earth-shattering, but the Mark 8 project team, here's a general channel. We've got a design channel with, some exclamation mark. I wonder if we can open up this doc file or if I don't have access again. So now when you're thinking about your hybrid world, there we go. So now we've got this Word document open. So now when we're talking about our hybrid world, I have a true 2-display setup with a very small device doing IP phone, Teams, all those sort of things. Even the ability to review Word documents and the other Office 365 things, as well as making phone calls. There's more in here as well. We can do some Cortana things. Cortana, first time I've used her on here. What is the weather in St. Petersburg, Florida? Oops.
The forecast shows sun with a high of 74 and a low of 66.
All right, so there we go. So we can do some of that in there. And let's see, anything else of particular interest? Set status messages. Oh, connect the device. So this is better together. So we can do better together over Ethernet. I don't have a laptop set up in this environment right now to show you this, but essentially what happens is, again, back to the scenario where I'm at the kitchen table, I have my laptop to the left, to the right is my Teams display. I then pair them using Better Together, which lets me then join my meetings on my laptop using the audio from Teams Display, the audio and video from Teams Display. So I can, again, I'm freeing up my laptop and I'm pushing the audio and video over to here. So if I have a Bluetooth headset paired to Teams Display, it doesn't matter if I start the meeting on Teams Display or on the desktop client, which I don't even need to have running. But if I want, I can then do the same thing with Better Together. If a phone call comes in, I can answer on the desktop or on Teams Display, and all of that works. So that's coming. Sorry, that's there already. Hotdesk. So Hotdesk, here you see I clicked the button. Let me do it again. That was a little quick. Hotdesk. So hotdesking lets someone walk in. So this is Megan Bowen signed in on this phone. I, Michael Tressler, could sign in and start sign in on her phone, and I can use her phone as a guest, kind of temporarily, usually for a few hours. Think of now in this hybrid workplace, companies may have shuttered offices and collapsed the cube space. So now it's a whole lot of that hoteling space. Like a lot of people have lost their offices and now they have to go back to hoteling space. So hot desking comes in handy there because people can just sign in temporarily on a phone, or on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm in the office, and Tuesday and Thursday it's Megan Bowen, so she only needs that phone, every other day. So I stay signed in Monday through Friday, then she signs in for Tuesday, and then hot desking has the ability to automatically sign her out. So after 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, she gets signed out. Now we're expanding hot desking to have the ability to remotely reserve Teams display. So if let's say you're going to the office tomorrow, you can go to the hoteling registration site that your company has, and as part of that, you could then reserve this phone so that when you come in, it's ready for you to go. So that is coming as well as some reservations. Screen lock down here at the bottom, that's there. And then let's pop into settings just quickly. Again, just like a phone, we can manage delegates. We can see what kind of notifications we have, quiet times, those sort of things, calling settings. So this is, a full phone. If I want to change, my call forwarding and ringtones and all these sort of things, I can do them right on here. Let's change the wallpaper. Let's try this little swirl. Let's make that fun. So Teams display is, to me, an excellent Teams hybrid option. Something that helps you be productive. And as people at Microsoft like to say you can stay in the flow on your laptop and not have these Teams pop-ups distracting you. Have those over on a second screen. So that is the hybrid talk about Teams display. Look at all the Ignite announcements around display. There's a lot coming to it. If you have not been paying attention, please do, because there's a lot coming. Now, my buddy Jimmy Vaughn, I asked him, because he knows this a little better than I do. He's going to talk about Teams panels and how those fit into hybrid. You might not think of a Teams panel as something particularly hybridy. I mean, it's just a little sign that hangs outside a wall, or it hangs on a wall outside a conference room and tells you there's a meeting going on. How does that actually help us? So I am going to flip it over to Jimmy, and he's going to take over from here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jimmy Vaughn. I'm a partner technical specialist here at Microsoft for Microsoft Teams Rooms. What I want to talk to you today about is actually Microsoft Teams panels. So Microsoft Teams panels is a category that is actually relatively new to Microsoft products, but it's something that's really, really exciting. And I want to put it to you very, very bluntly that this may be one of the best return to the office devices that actually Microsoft has come out with in a very long time. And I say return to the office because if you were like me, I'm relatively new to Microsoft and I was onboarded while we were all remote. And that may be a very large portion of people that are inside of your organization today, where they were actually onboarded while they were remote and have never actually been to an office. And when going back to the office, they may need some help in understanding the physical layout of your office space and where are meeting rooms and where are places that actually people can congregate and meet together. And Microsoft Teams panels has an idea for those kind of situations in those shared spaces. Those of you that are watching me today may know Microsoft Teams rooms and may know that Microsoft Teams rooms sit inside of the meeting room. And that's where a shared space where people come and congregate and collaborate inside of a meeting room itself. And the Microsoft Teams panels sits outside of the room. Now, whether or not you have a Microsoft Teams rooms, Microsoft Teams panels can help your organization. And they help your organization in actually identifying the meeting spaces. So what are the panels? If we look here, here is a representation of a Microsoft room. And if you look at this right here, right over my head, that's a Microsoft Teams panel that sits out of a Microsoft Teams meeting room. So we have both enabled technology inside of the room and outside of this room. But that technology inside of the room is not needed to enable this Teams panel. Scheduling panels has been a market that has been around for a good number of years. Actually, many Fortune 500 companies have moved from just a piece of paper that sits out of the room to something technology that actually sits on the wall. And they use this technology for a whole bunch of functions. Number one, it actually does scheduling. So a scheduling panel will do the scheduling of the room. And many scheduling service providers actually use Exchange as their backend. So Microsoft sees this as an opportunity to give you a native software solution or a device that actually uses Microsoft Exchange as the backend, just like many other scheduling providers do. And you can walk up to this panel and you can schedule it, but also you can see that it actually has green lights on it. This can be seen down a hallway. And this means that that room is actually available for use, and there is nobody, number one, inside of the room, and there has not been a meeting scheduled in that room. This helps people, like I was explaining, when they return to the office. If you can see a piece of technology that's outside of the room and identify that's a conference room, now you've sort of battled that whole I'm returning to the office and where do I go for the meeting? Some of our OEM providers actually have signs that can actually sit from the ceiling or off the wall, and they are engravable, and they have the ability to actually say what that room name is. And each room name is actually displayed on the panel itself, thus identifying this is a meeting room, and this is the meeting room where my meeting is. Reducing confusion, reducing the ability to actually go to wrong rooms, or having the need to actually open that door and interrupt a meeting that may be in progress and say, oops, that's not my meeting room. And that's where outside of the room technology comes into play. Now, inside of the room technology can actually extend some of the features that are on the panel itself. That panel might be able to actually use a camera and say how many people are inside of the room and put up a display notification that the room is at capacity and not to go inside of the room. Also, you can actually take presence of people inside of the room and let people know that there are people there. Or if nobody has shown up for the meeting, we can now remove that meeting from the room itself, allowing other users to use that scheduled meeting. So if we look at the features really that Teams panel sort of brings, number one, it's easily located, identifiable, and reserved spaces. Now, since all of these panels are actually a single PoE solution or PoE plus solution, that means that they can be run. And even like small gathering spaces, maybe there's a floor jack where a Cat 5 is run, and we can deliver PoE and just have this on a lectern that basically says this is the meeting room, and I can use that. It doesn't have to be a centralized space or a room itself. These are just bookable spaces that it deploys with. Now, I can pair it, like I said, with the Microsoft Teams room, and I can have that both inside room technology and outside of room, but there's nothing that the outside of room or the Teams panel has that is 100% dependent on that technology in the room being there. So I might, as an organization, want to actually deploy this site-wide as I prepare my inside technology, inside of the room technology, to actually get the full functionality of the Teams panel itself. Again, these are centralized and management with security going down that zero trust of Microsoft. You know that it's Microsoft software that's actually connecting to your Exchange environment and making sure that it is identified as that device itself. We can extend this with custom apps, and I'll get into custom apps in a little bit, but everything is actually managed through Intune and through the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. And I'll show you a slide deck next of the Teams Admin Center. But let's go ahead and talk about how we can extend the functionality of that with custom apps. Now, many of you might be familiar with the extensibility apps that you write for Microsoft Teams to allow your company to do something custom for your organization. Now those apps can actually be used on Teams panels and can be extended to the Teams panel itself. You might ask, what apps are an example of this? And I'll give you one example that we have here at Microsoft ourselves. We actually use a catering company, and when you book a room, you have the availability of actually booking catering. Now that means coffee or sandwiches or some sort of food that comes to the room itself. We have an app that actually can be that catering app itself and is used inside of Microsoft. So when I come to the room, if the food hasn't arrived yet, there's no need to go looking for, oh, where's the email, or where's the number that I have to call, or who do I have to contact? There's a button on the panel itself that says food's not here, and you can hit that button, and that contacts the people inside of the catering group that know that, oh, it came from this room, and this room hasn't gotten it yet. But if it's on its way, they'll know, and they'll notify the room through the app itself and contact the appropriate people who scheduled that meeting. Now, in addition to that, some people might say, okay, well, I want to write something that says, has the room been cleaned, or is it satisfactory, or is it not satisfactory in cleaning? That, again, is a custom app that can be written and transferred to this panel so that when people come to the room, they might say, hey, the room's not clean. And that gets put into a bucket so that the cleaning person knows that, hey, I've got to go and clean that room because somebody is saying that it hasn't actually been cleaned in this time where we're all worried about going into shared spaces. Now, as far as management of these devices, Teams Admin Center. It's exactly where all of your other devices are. So if you've got phones, if you've got Teams displays, if you've got collaboration bars or Microsoft Teams room systems inside of the room itself, now this is just a Teams panel that is another category under your devices. This gives you insight into actually the rooms itself. So how many times has the room been booked? How many people showed up for meetings? Also troubleshooting. If that panel is actually dropped offline, you'll be able to get an alert. And I'll be able to actually take device inventory of every single panel that's out on the out inside of my organization. I can customize them, and I can put tags in to say only show me the ones that are in North America, or only show me the ones that are in Europe, and so on. And remote management, making sure that everything is up to date. Software is actually managed through Teams Admin Center itself. If you have a problem and you want to restart the device, let's restart the device from Teams Admin Center. And I can push updates and settings from these. So the idea is to have everything in one Teams Admin Center device management system. And again, facing that zero trust, we know that it's written by Microsoft, and we know that that software is there, and it's adhering to all of the things. Also, inside of this deck, you'll see that there's actually some videos, and you can go and look at videos and see these panels in action. And in that top one from the Teams panel GA log, you'll actually see how it looks going down the hall. And from the Ignite blog, you'll get more insight into some of these features and things that are available on the panels themselves. Very important to know, Teams panels, again, does not rely on inside of the room technology, and it's a great way to actually outfit your spaces and your scheduling. Thank you very much.